What if someone forced you to rob a bank with a bomb locked around your neck? And no matter what you did, there was no way out, no escape, no control, no second chance. Because in 2003, a man walked into a bank with exactly that situation, and minutes later, that bomb exploded right in front of police, on live television. And the worst part? He said he didn't choose any of it. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is where we dive into the most disturbing, mysterious, and unbelievable true crime stories ever told. Stories that don't just shock you, they stay with you. And this one is different, because the deeper you go, the more confusing it becomes. And by the end, you won't just be asking what happened, you'll be asking who was really in control. So let's go back to the moment everything started. August 28th, 2003. A quiet afternoon in Erie. Nothing unusual. No warning signs. No sense that anything was about to go wrong. And then he walks in. His name is Brian Wells, a pizza delivery driver, known around town. Not dangerous, not violent, just ordinary. But the moment people see him, they know something isn't right, because around his neck is a metal collar, locked, tight, unremovable, and attached to it is a bomb. Now imagine being inside that bank. You're standing in line, maybe checking your phone, maybe talking to someone, and then you look up and see that a man with an explosive device locked to his body. He walks to the teller, calm, not frantic, not aggressive, just focused. He hands over a note, and that note changes everything. It says he has a bomb. It demands money, and it explains something terrifying. If he doesn't follow instructions, the bomb will explode. Now stop for a second, because this is where the story splits. There are two possibilities. Either he's telling the truth, or he's lying, and in that moment, no one knows which one it is. But wait, here's where it gets even more disturbing, because the bank doesn't hesitate. They comply. They hand over the money, about $8,700. No resistance, no delay, because when you're faced with that kind of threat, you don't take chances. He takes the money and walks out, and for a brief moment, it feels like it's over. But it's not, because outside, everything begins to collapse. Police spot him almost immediately. Something about the situation doesn't feel right. They stop him in a nearby parking lot. And this is where everything becomes chaotic. He's not acting like a typical criminal. He's nervous, confused, panicked. He tells them something that changes everything. He says he was forced to do this. He says the bomb is real. And he says he doesn't have much time. Now imagine being one of those officers. Do you believe him? Or do you think this is just another tactic? Because making the wrong decision here could cost a life, or many, and then you see the device. It looks real, too real, and suddenly this isn't just a robbery anymore. This is a bomb situation. The bomb squad is called, but they're not there yet. Time is ticking. And here's the part that makes this even more terrifying. Brian Wells is sitting on the ground, surrounded by police, and he's begging, telling them he's going to die. But wait, this is where everything changes, because suddenly, without warning, the device detonates. A loud explosion, shock, silence, and just like that, he's gone. Right there, in front of everyone, captured on camera, broadcast to the world. Now you'd think that would be the end. A tragic robbery, a deadly mistake. But no, because what investigators uncover next changes everything. This wasn't random. This wasn't impulsive. This was planned, carefully, and the deeper they dig, the darker it gets. At the center of it all was a woman named Marjorie Deal Armstrong. And trust me, this is where the story takes a turn you won't expect. And this is where everything starts to feel unreal. Because when investigators begin tracing the people connected to this case, one name keeps coming up again and again: Marjorie Deal Armstrong. At first glance, she doesn't seem like the mastermind behind something this elaborate. But the more you learn about her, the more unsettling it becomes. She was intelligent, highly educated, but also deeply troubled. She had a history: violence, manipulation, instability, and most disturbingly, she had already been connected to a murder. But wait! Here's where it gets even more disturbing. When police first questioned her, she didn't just deny involvement. She pointed them somewhere else, to a body, hidden in a freezer. Let that sink in. A completely separate murder, somehow tied into this already bizarre case. Now think about that. This isn't just a robbery anymore. This isn't even just a bombing. This is a web, a network of lies, manipulation, and calculated control. And right at the center of it is someone who seems capable of anything. But she wasn't alone. Investigators soon uncover another key figure, Kenneth Barnes. And this is where the story takes another turn. Because Barnes doesn't just deny involvement. He talks, he cooperates, and what he reveals changes everything. According to him, this entire thing was planned. Not just a robbery, not just a bomb. Everything. The target, the victim, the method, even the outcome. And then comes a detail that makes this case one of the most disturbing ever recorded. A scavenger hunt. Yes, the scavenger hunt. Brian Wells wasn't just supposed to rob the bank. He was supposed to follow a series of instructions, hidden in different locations, each one leading to the next. And somewhere along that chain was supposed to be a key that would unlock the bomb. Now stop and think about that. A man with a ticking explosive device locked around his neck, forced to run from location to location, solving clues just to survive. It sounds like something out of a movie, but this was real. But wait, here's where it gets even darker. When investigators analyze the timeline, they notice something terrifying. Even if everything went perfectly, even if Wells followed every instruction exactly, there wasn't enough time. Let that sink in. The plan was impossible, which leads to one chilling question. Was he ever meant to survive? Or was he chosen because he was expendable? And this is where the story turns into something deeper than just crime. It becomes psychological. Because now, you're not just asking what happened. You're asking why. Why create something this complicated? Why involve so many people? Why risk so much for so little money? Because $8,700 doesn't justify this level of planning. Unless the money was never the real goal. Unless this was about something else. Control, manipulation, power, and maybe something even darker. But wait, before we go further, I want to hear from you. Right now, do you think Brian Wells was completely innocent? Or do you think he knew more than he admitted? Drop your answer in the comments, because what comes next might change your mind. As investigators dig deeper, they start questioning everything. Wells' background, his connections, his behavior, and slowly, a possibility begins to emerge. What if he wasn't entirely unaware? What if he had some level of involvement before things spiraled out of control? Some evidence suggested he may have met with the conspirators beforehand, that he might have known at least part of the plan. But here's the problem. Even if that's true, nothing explains what happened next, because no one signs up to have a bomb locked around their neck. No one agrees to a plan that guarantees their death. So where's the line? Where does involvement end and victimhood begin? And that's what makes this case so uncomfortable, because there's no clear answer. Eventually, the pieces start coming together. Marjorie Deal Armstrong is arrested, tried, and convicted. She receives a life sentence. And while in prison, she continues to deny certain parts of the story, adding more confusion, more uncertainty. Kenneth Barnes takes a plea deal, provides information, helps investigators understand the structure of the plan. But even with that, some questions remain unanswered. Who actually built the bomb? Who designed the scavenger hunt? And most importantly, who decided that Brian Wells would be the one wearing it? Because that decision is the most chilling part of all. A human life reduced to a role in a plan, a pawn. And when you look at it that way, this isn't just a crime story. It's a story about control, about how far people are willing to go, when they believe they can outsmart everyone else. But in the end, they didn't, because the truth came out. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. Enough to see the darkness behind the plan. Enough to understand that this wasn't genius. It was cruelty, and the cost of that cruelty was a life. So now we're left with the same questions. Was Brian Wells a victim, or was he part of something he thought he could control until it was too late? And maybe that's a question we'll never fully answer. If you've made it this far, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because stories like this, they don't just inform you, they stay with you. And before you go, I want you to think about one final thing. Somewhere in this story, there's a moment where everything could have gone differently. A decision, a choice, a second. And if that moment had changed, maybe Brian Wells would still be alive. But it didn't. And now, all we're left with is one of the most disturbing mysteries in true crime history, and the haunting truth that sometimes the real horror isn't what we don't know, it's what we do